Welcome to the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. I'm Larry Wagner, and I've spent 30 years working with seniors where I was a certified senior advisor and the last 15 years in the home buying industry as a certified senior transition specialist, where I specialize in dealing with seniors going through a transition in their lives. This podcast is for seniors, those with seniors they love, and people who work in the senior community. In each episode, we bring on a guest who works to improve the lives of seniors. This podcast is your key to unlocking senior resources. Hello. Today we're here with Renata Glaz from Ageless Living. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. You work with seniors, as everyone on this podcast. Just briefly, can you explain exactly what you do with seniors? Because I know you have you do with multiple aspects of seniors.
So we mostly concentrate on transitions,
Right.
life transitions. We provide number of services. We help them with downsizing and moving.
Mhm.
We help them with home organization and home modifications to make them, to allow them to live in their home safely. And we also provide service of interior design, which also goes hand in hand with home modification and home organization, because we promote safety and functionality inside their homes.
All those dovetail very nicely together. Also, it seems like if you do design and home modifications, at some point those people who've had modifications may have to move on to the next level. So
Absolutely.
they already have someone they've worked with and they know and trust. It seems like a perfect 1, 2, 3 punch. And you're doing, I assume, decorating in a home modification situation as well as a transition scenario with people leaving their home.
Yes. Usually home modifications, people kind of are concentrating on the functionality and safety of things, but because of my love for aesthetics and my interior design, I tend to make the space look not only functional and safe, but, aesthetically pleasing as well.
I've gone to so many houses where they will put the hospital bed in the living room and suddenly it looks ridiculous. But there's a way to make that less hospital-like.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're doing for these people. So they still live in their home and it still feels like a home. And that's so important. A friend of mine did not have that luxury, and I went to her home and my jaw dropped. Her mother was living with her, and it looked exactly like what it was, which is not the look you want, and you're the one who takes care of that.
Absolutely.
What was your journey to get into this business and to get this career?
So it's actually funny, the way life works. I had been a physical therapist for very many years. Loved my work as physical therapy. Never thought of changing until this little wrinkle in time that we call COVID.
Little wrinkle.
A little wrinkle in time, yes. And I think it kind of forced a lot of us to reinvent ourselves. And when you're forced to do that, you come up with some different ways of, changing your life. And I knew very well as a physical therapist, home safety modifications was something that we did, as physical therapists, and that was very near and dear to me. That led to home organization. I'm also a neat freak.
That helps for organization.
That helps,
Yes.
yes. So, and then we had clients who would ask me like, oh, can you help us downsize? Can you help us pack? Can you help us? And it kind of just transitioned into many other services because there was a need for it, and we were able to find a way to fill that need. As I mentioned before, I love the aesthetics. As a child, I went to art school, so home interior design was always part of my life, whether it was for my family, for my friends, acquaintances. And during COVID, I went back to school and I actually got a degree in interior design.
Oh, nice.
And I find a way to incorporate all of my experiences and all of my knowledge into what I do every day.
Right. So having the degree gave you probably not only the credentials, but probably a little bit more confidence doing this, even though you were doing it before, and I'm sure doing it well. But somehow having that degree gives you a little bit more credibility, oftentimes to yourself.
Absolutely. But it also, believe it or not, it even though I think a lot of people kind of think that, interior design is just,
Right.
it's just having an eye for things.
Right.
But there's a lot of knowledge. There's
Yes.
actually a lot of education that comes
Mhm.
with it. And I did learn a lot. I had a lot of like, wow, this is interesting moments as I was studying. And I definitely had a very open mind to different things, and I think with age, my mind was open more and more to interior design, different aspects of interior design. So it definitely gave me a lot of knowledge as well as confidence as well.
My background comes from adjacent to interior design, and the one thing I could never get was color theory. And color is such an important part of design, and when working with people, it's huge. It impacts the room tremendously, and that's something I've never been able to grasp.
It affects your mood. It
Right.
affects how you feel about certain things. You could have a couch in two different colors and it will feel different. And interior design, it's all about how it makes you feel. It really is.
Absolutely.
And it has to be functional. I'm a very great proponent of having interior design functional.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people create spaces that look very pretty and beautiful, but they're not functional.
Yep.
And I don't think it's the right way to go about it.
You're a function before form versus a form before function.
Absolutely.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm the opposite. I always liked you, and I guess opposites attract.
Yeah.
So, I always think we'll make it work, but it's got to look great. And but that's just me.
It could look great
right.
and be functional.
And be
And this is the goal.
Absolutely. We
Yes.
both want to win. We
Yeah.
both want to win that one. But that's a huge part of it, because so many people who help seniors transition, they do the technical component. They
Yes.
get them from A to B.
Yes.
But there's so much more to it than that. I mean, that seems something you probably want to elaborate on, because that's
Absolutely.
huge.
You just kind of touched on the very sensitive subject for me. So a lot of the families, believe like when they move their families, their, parents into, say, an assisted living or an independent living, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like what doesn't matter what it looks like, but it does, because you want to make it feel like a home.
Right.
No matter where we live, we need to have attachment to the space where you close the door behind you and it's your home, it's your space, it's your haven. And this is my goal, no matter what I do, even, when we transition people from their homes into assisted livings, they're not going into a facility. They're creating, they're going into a new home where they're going to live for years to come, and they want to have that feeling of home. And this is where I find it extremely important. And I always encourage people to accessorize homes and pick colors that they like and make it as comfortable as possible and functional and safe, obviously. But it has to have aesthetic beauty to it, because we need, and it has to have warmth. If the home does not have warmth, then it's not your home. And then you can't just come home and relax.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's fun that you and I know each other about a year and a half or so, and we have the same client. At Leave the Key Homebuyers, I buy houses, and mainly I buy houses from senior citizens who are transitioning into other places, moving to kids, assisted living, nursing homes, and so on, because those houses have, I say, orange shag carpet and dark wood paneling.
Yes.
And they're not ready for prime time as far as putting them on the market for the millennials to buy. They don't know from shag carpet and paneling.
Yes.
So with that said, and then you were helping this client move into an independent living facility, and we bumped into each other again unknowingly. So it was kind of funny. But so I've had the good fortune of visiting our client's apartment in her facility. She moved into the place that my in-laws live. So I'm there all the time, and you made it feel like her home. You brought some of the furniture from her home, but you brought new things as well. She bought new things. I assume you helped her pick out those new items that fit her personality, not necessarily yours and mine, but her personality.
Absolutely.
You didn't impose your taste on her place.
No.
And I've been to her home, and I've been to now her apartment, and they're the same. And which is exactly, it makes that transition, which is so difficult going into a facility, a psychological component that is so difficult. It made the transition, to use that word again, so much smoother. Because she's back at home again.
Absolutely.
And you have enough of her stuff, her break front with her displays and so on, to make she put generations worth of stuff in that break front with her. And that's what I think is missing when people help transition. They're moving stuff, but they're not knowing how to do it.
They're not making it into a home.
They're not making it into a home.
Yeah.
They're not making it a continuity, a continuation of the home they left. I'm sure some people want to start brand new, but these are people who are 80 years old and so on. They tend not to, I'm assuming, want to start brand new.
Absolutely.
They're creatures of habit. They've had decades of one way. And at this stage, you're not asking them to change, and you're going with their way.
Yes and no.
Go ahead. I wasn't expecting that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I kind of didn't think you would.
Okay.
So I definitely, when I create a space for someone, their opinion matters the most.
Of course.
But I do a lot of guidance.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of these individuals are used to what they used to have, what used to be beautiful and what used to be functional.
Okay.
And there's so many things out there right now, new things,
Right.
that could make them more functional and more acceptable.
Okay.
But they're not open to it, or they don't have the knowledge.
Right.
So my job as an interior designer is to introduce them to something that they will be comfortable with, that it's going to be part of them.
Right.
And they feel like it's who they are.
Right.
But have a new touch to it. So Barbara wanted, brown and grays, and I encouraged her to use blues.
Right.
I'm very big, and I think, on fireplaces, and Barbara was resistant at first, and now she's in love with her fireplace.
Right. I saw that. She was talking about with.
Yes. So I think it's very important I don't try to instill my opinions on someone, but I try to open an individual's mind to new things and, see the possibility in something that may be different.
Right.
And yet still be very comfortable and very, like a space that they will absolutely adore.
That is interesting. I didn't know the fireplace was your influence.
Yes.
But she talked about it probably more than any other single piece in the apartment, which is very interesting. Huh. That's very well said. Because, as a matter of fact, we're just doing a home renovation now. And again, my background comes from the design adjacent space. And I'm making suggestions to my wife. And when she disagrees with me, some design decisions are 100% opinion, but some design decisions are logical. And
absolutely,
I'm trying to convince her politely that what you want to do doesn't really make sense. And it's not so easy, because I said, you have total control. Whatever you want wins, and I'm going to give you 100% carte blanche. So, but you keep trying to change my mind. I said, you get to call the shots in the end. In this case, the client's your client. In this case, my wife is my client, if you will. But I'm trying to direct her.
You're in a rougher situation.
I'm in definitely a rougher situation. You get to walk away at the end. I know. Yeah. So, and with downsize, I'm going to even be closer. So, So definitely a rougher situation. But it's exactly what you're talking about. You try to give guidance, but they're the ones who are the final arbiter.
Absolutely. And there's ways to do it. And I think that's why my experience as a physical therapist for so many years and working in the senior space for so many years is very helpful, because I can navigate. And once again, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I'm just trying to open their mind to see other possibilities that they may have not been able to see before.
Right. And it's funny. So you went from the therapy space, then to the home modification, which is a definite correlation, and then to the transition, all with seniors. And it's such a natural progression, which it's nice. It was a really organic growth and to your career. And that's the best kind of career, because you're not forcing anything.
Absolutely.
It just happens naturally. and you're working with the people you love to work with.
Absolutely.
My whole life is spent in the senior community, and it is by far the best community to work with.
I agree.
So, since I'm 22, I work with that community. Although my definition of senior has gotten older. Since I'm 20,
All of ours.
when they were 60, they were seniors, and I'm in my 60s, and I don't consider myself a senior, but I am. I get my discounts. But now seniors in their 80s, in my opinion, I don't want to admit that I'm a senior. But but with that said, there's just a different level of attitude. They respect you when you deal with a senior, the way you respect them, and
the wisdom.
Yeah.
But what makes me the happiest when it comes to
Yeah.
the seniors is their gratitude.
I was going to say appreciation.
Their appreciation and gratitude.
Yep.
And, I call them the forgotten, the has-been generation, because a lot of people dismiss them
Right.
as insignificant.
Right.
And to me, it's so, when I see people do that, like I take it personally.
Yeah.
Because I come from a culture where you respect the elderly more than you respect any other generation.
Right.
These people have lived lives and have the wisdom that we can only aspire to.
Right.
And when you give them kindness, when you do things with kindness, and you do it really for their sake, not, to fill necessarily, we all work for money, obviously, but when you're doing it from the perspective of kindness and making somebody else's life a better existence, the gratitude that you get back is unbelievable. And I think there's nothing more gratifying on our part than getting like that gratitude from someone that you made their life better. You made a difference in somebody's life. You made, they still have a lot of living to do, and you're helping them with that.
I see your expression, and your sense of I don't know what word to use, of how much you enjoy working with this population is just coming through. Your appreciation for their appreciation.
Absolutely.
I just received an email 2 days ago from this very same woman thanking me again for buying her house because I made her life so easy, getting her from the day she was ready to move until the day she was able to move was a few weeks. You can't do this. You have to go through the whole process. And she's so thankful for me simplifying her life. And then for you, and she sent me an email a week later after sending me up teen emails already thanking me. So, I don't get that from other people. You don't get that from 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds.
No.
And forget
you do get gratitude, but it's not the same. It's not the same. And I think the fact that when they feel that you actually don't dismiss them, you sit there and you listen to what they have to say.
Right.
They're not used to it anymore, which is very sad. I think it's very sad. I think I love this generation.
Hi, I'm Larry.
And I'm Ben. We're the father and son team of Leave the Key Homebuyers, and we want to buy your house.
We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you were going through.
So if you're considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out and see how we can help.
Do you have an outdated home?
No need to update anything.
Have a home that needs repairs?
Don't bother with repairs.
Don't want to take everything with you?
Leave whatever you want behind.
Dreading the headaches that come with agents?
Sell your home without paying a commission.
Dreading prying neighbors, attending open houses, and passing judgment on your home?
No need for public showings.
When you sell to us, you'll have all the certainty of closing on your timeline, not someone else's, and there's absolutely no pressure.
Visit leavethekey.com or call us today for a no-obligation offer at 631-388-7771 if you want to sell your home today.
It's so funny when we go in to buy someone's home, we'll walk into their house, but the average appointment's about an hour. About 10 minutes is about the house. About 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
The other 50 minutes is just talking to these people who want to engage in a conversation. They want to meet nice people. They want to talk about their lives or whatever's going on. And you sit and listen and you engage in a conversation. And that's all it takes. And their expectations are so minimal. And people,
unfortunately,
people are so not willing to give them
yes.
what they deserve. So the fact that we both work in the senior market, which is why we do this podcast, is we get to see it every day. and we get to feel it every day, and we get the sense of accomplishing something, just making someone's day a little bit better. And yeah, I love doing that. I love doing that. So, but question for you: there are multiple people that are transition specialists who help seniors go from one place to another, whether it's to a second home, a smaller apartment, an independent living facility, whatever the case. What separates you from the other people that do this?
It's a very good question, I think, for anybody in any space, in any business. And I think my greatest value is my sensitivity to this population. I come to when I modify somebody's space, or when I help them transition, it's always an individual approach. It's never a cookie cutter process. Everybody's needs are different. Some people are more emotional, some are less emotional. Some have attachment to their belongings, others have different attachment. So it's actually assessing what the person actually needs more almost on the emotional level. I mean, the physical part, like the moving part, anybody can do it. Like,
easy.
I mean, that's easy. You come in, you pack boxes up, you move them to a new place, you unpack boxes up. And that's not where my strength lies. My strength lies in the ability to make it unique for that individual, and to make them feel special, and to give them what they really need. Obviously, my background as a physical therapist helps me tremendously in every aspect of my business. I always say, like, when you start a new business, you don't start from scratch, you start from experience. And that really does infiltrate every part of the services that my company provides. But I think my biggest asset is my caring and my ability to make these individuals feel special, like they matter and their opinions matter, and kind of provide the service that each individual needs.
Your term, make them feel special, is such a beautiful term. I mean, you said moving it's very binary. You're here, you're there. It's very technical. Put stuff, wrap it, put in a box, put it there, unwrap it. As you said that's not your strong suit, because anyone could do that. Yeah. So where you excel is in the touchy-feely component of the move, which is, if I'm moving from A to B and I hire allied van lines, there could be senior transition specialists that acts like allied van lines. They're going to put stuff in the box, they're going to unpack at the other end. You're right. That's not the job. That's the practical part of the job. That's not the part that really is important.
Absolutely, especially in the senior space.
Correct.
I listen to their stories. I make, I allow them to tell me those stories, and those stories are amazing.
Right.
Full of wisdom, full of history. It's like you have to listen to them. Right. I love it. Sometimes I'll have my clients just in the middle, like we're packing, we're moving them, and they'll just stop me. It's like, do you like what you do? And my answer is usually the same. It's like, do I really love the packing part? Do I really love the moving part? No, it's not. I mean, it's not my love, but what I love is the communication, the interaction, and the feelings that come with it. Right. That's what That's what makes me get up in the morning and want to get up and continue doing what I'm doing.
Right. That's it's so nicely said, and it's so true. It's so true, and I'm sure there are so many people that are the other side of it. Okay, what do you want to take with you? Let's get it there. Let's get to the new place. And they're in, they're out, and
especially like most of us, we have busy lives.
Right.
Okay, let's get this done. Come on, let's get this done. Yes, you got to take the time, because this is a different generation. With anybody, I think kindness goes a long way with any generation, but especially with
the senior community, without a doubt, because they give it more than any other generation. So therefore, they should get it. Correct.
The Absolutely. Lives that they've lived and everything that they've done in these lives, they deserve it, and we have to give it to them.
Correct. Yes. Well, I don't want to get into a whole story about what's going on with generation after generation after generation. We'll wait up for another podcast.
Yes.
But regarding this, we're in agreement 100%, and it's exciting to see somebody so passionate about what they do. The people we bring on here for a reason, because they're all doing something in their industry that makes me want to bring them out to so much in this podcast, that they may say, this is the person I want to hire. I'm going through this. Yeah, I could pack my own boxes. I need someone to help me. And before we were filming, we're having some quick technical difficulties with the wires, so Renata and I had a long time to talk about, too long, unfortunately, we waited a long time, but to talk about, you just mentioned about the stories. It's each piece, well, I don't want to say each piece, many pieces that people own have a story. The brake front has 20 pieces of China, Yadros, whatever, Hummels, whatever's in there, and each one came from somewhere else, and they have a story to tell. Is there a specific, if I say, give me one story that someone told you, is there a story that you could think of that people shared with you?
There's lots of stories, and there's I can't really, there's so many stories that I hear, and every little thing has a story.
Right.
And sometimes you'll pick up a piece of china, and it has a crack in it.
Right.
And I'm like, come on, like this, like especially the kids, they're like, come on, this is, we need to get rid of it. But that was a piece of china that their grandmother had. When they moved from Europe to United States.
That's right. Yeah.
And I have recently just moved someone who was mostly raised by her grandmother, and now she's in her 80s.
Oh, gosh.
And she has a doll that her grandmother made her. She was not giving that doll rare. And, doll, you can only imagine what the doll looked like, but she was not giving that away. And everything she would pick up, she's like, oh, that was my grandmother's. My grandmother made that. And it's like, it's heartwarming, right? It would get, I get shivers. And this is history.
Right.
Like, these are almost antique things by now.
Right. Yep.
But they have such an emotional connection that you can't dismiss them.
Right.
They need to talk about it.
When my grandmother passed, I was very close to my father's mother, and she was a seamstress. And she had an old treadle Singer sewing machine that she had motorized because she sewed for a living. And I took that with me when we got rid of her apartment. I don't need my grandmother's 1920 sewing machine. And it was in an ugly cabinet because it was a utilitarian cabinet. She's European and, just came after World War I and everything's practical, and this was one of those pieces. I couldn't part with it. It took me years and years. I put up in the attics, just knowing it was there made me comfortable. Finally, I gave it to someone else who I knew, a family member. And I understand. It was never even in my home, but like this woman at the doll. It was part of her life. The sewing machine wasn't part of my life. It just made me think of my grandmother. So that was so difficult for me to get rid of. I can't imagine. There's so many things that are so much closer to us that create such emotion. And emotion and logic are really like at opposite ends of the spectrum. And you respect the emotional side of the spectrum as much as the logical side.
But so many decisions that we make on the, based on the emotions.
We do. We have to have a balance.
Absolutely.
And your job is to bring balance because people are emotional animals. All of us. Yeah. So it's your job as a self-proclaimed neat freak or a minimalist or whatever to bring that component, the rational side, to the process, which is probably not always so easy.
And you're absolutely right. And, because when they move from a large house into a small apartment, they want to take everything. Yeah. And this is where I need to be firm enough and say, it's not going to fit. Right. All of these things are not going to fit. You cannot take everything. So we need to make a decision and see what is it that you can take and what is it that, you need to part with. And even that is a very emotional conversation that you need to have. And unless you have a rapport with the individual, telling them this is crap, you got to have to get rid of it. No, it's not.
In a very nice way.
It's, you have to navigate. You have to know how to navigate in the way so you don't hurt people's feelings, but yet, you have a job to do.
Right.
So it's a fine line that you have to really walk. And you're absolutely right about that.
So I like people in this podcast to meet our guests. I also like them to get a bit of knowledge and wisdom or whatever. So if you were giving advice, I'm 80 years old, I'm about to move, I'm moving to an independent living facility, I'm moving with my daughter, I'm moving to a condo down south that's much smaller than my home. What pearly words of wisdom can you share with that person to move them forward?
I think downsizing is very tough for everyone. But I think what you and I just, discussed, like for them, what I've noticed, it's a lot easier to have them get rid of stuff
Right.
if they have their family members listen to the story behind it. So if the family member knows the story behind this item,
Right.
you can then take a picture
Mhm.
and then you can cherish it.
Right.
Because you could still cherish the memory, because it's about the memory. It's not actually about the physical item a lot of the times.
That's brilliant.
And another thing, I think, especially for a generation who comes from not having much, knowing that somebody else can use their item
Right.
and enjoy it, people who do not have much in their lives, and they can donate it to them.
Right.
And this item will continue to serve
Right.
and bring joy to somebody. That's another way to get them to really part with a lot of their items.
Right. That's brilliant. So the question, so you think family should be a big part of the process?
Absolutely.
Because I agree with you, but unfortunately, sometimes family does not handle it sensitively. That might with the sensitivity. You said thank you. It took us a few tries, the two of us, with sensitivity, the same sensitivity that you use.
I think it's more patience. I think the
That's
families
interesting.
have sensitivity,
But maybe not the patience.
do not have the patience.
It was.
We all kind of lack patience when it comes to our own family.
I believe that. I explained to my wife, because you treat strangers, but you treat your family. I said, I think the world does that. It doesn't make any sense, but I think we all do that. This is the familiarity makes us be a little less, a little more crass. But I was talking to someone who was selling her home. She'd been in the home for 50 years, and she had no children. She called her nieces and nephews in to help her clean out. They put a dumpster in the nieces and nephews ordered a dumpster, and in about 4 hours, they cleaned out her house. And she was destroyed. She goes, they literally threw everything out. They said, you clean a house, we're going to throw it. She says, no, don't throw that out. No, it's garbage. They let her keep zero. She had her clothes. That's all. And
that's where the culture comes in.
Right.
And I'm European, so I would, the culture, once again, like as I mentioned before, I was raised with great respect for the aging population and seniors. I think that's what we lack, and that's what we don't teach. But unless we kind of continue to do it and talk about it and have the families come in and see the impact that these items have on the seniors, we're not going to fix this.
Right.
So I think that's the way to do it anyway. As painful as it is, like we got to continue.
Right. Absolutely. The families have dispersed. My kids grew up in a 3-generation home. My in-laws lived in an apartment in our house, my wife and me. Now my in-laws moved out, actually to independent living I mentioned, and we'll move in the apartment, and my daughter's moving with her children. So again, it's going to be a 3-generation house. And it doesn't happen anymore, especially here on Long Island. And it's a non-American thing. I'm finding people come from other countries will do that. But people born in America, we don't think that way as a rule. I do.
And I think that kind of made us lose that respect for the elderly.
Yeah. You don't watch them the same way. You don't have the same rapport with them. My kids have a tremendous relationship with my wife's parents, and my parents were 10 minutes away. They knew them intimately, saw them on a regular basis, and watched them grow older as my kids grew older, and watched their needs change, and my kids respected what their grandparents needed, and they would step up to the plate any time because of the exposure. And that's such a shame, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. It's so easy to do, but we'll stay on the course of transitioning. But so is there any questions that I haven't asked you that you would like, information you would like to share?
Just to kind of wrap, everything up, that all the services, even though the services we provide are very different,
Right.
They all are you know, I really pride myself on making it a unique service for
Right.
each individual. You know, I come in, I do an assessment, which is always for free.
Right.
And I assess what the needs are. I speak with the individual, with their family, and then we sit down and discuss what the needs are. You know, not everything that I believe gets done, or not everything that the individual or their family thinks that should be done gets done, because of, you know, logistics and the circumstances. But all the services are very unique and provided for that individual. So everything is very, it's not cookie cutter.
Right. Right. The last question. Well, first of all, can you just rattle off one more time for everyone, the sort of in bullet points, the things that you do?
So, one of the major parts is transitioning.
Correct.
We basically, you know, downsizing and moving.
Right.
There's so many different steps that are kind of like absorbed in this, but just as a, you know, one bullet point, we do home safety modifications, we do home organization and interior design.
That's so we talked at the beginning, but I wanted to hear that again at the end because it's so easy. And I always say that people think in bullet points. So when I send emails, I use bullet points all the time. So that's why I started doing this. Exactly. Things get lost in paragraph form. So if there's one takeaway people want to get that from our discussion today, I know what I'd want to say, but what would you say is the one takeaway for people to get from this podcast?
That all the services we provide, we do it with kindness and caring. I think that's the biggest, probably, obviously experience and knowledge. When I work with anyone, I work the way I would work with my own family, and I work the way I would want things done for myself. I'm a pain in the butt, so it takes a lot to satisfy me, and I'm a perfectionist. So when I work, you kind of utilize all those. That's how I want. If I want certain things done a certain way, that's how I do it for everyone.
Right.
So it's always coming from unique needs perspective and from kindness and sensitivity.
And the key word here, I think, is sensitivity. And you're paying attention to their wants and desires and wrapping them in a practical bow. Absolutely. It seems like that sort of summarizes what you do on the transition side. So I want to thank you very much for participating today. Hope it was painless and easygoing. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. If you've enjoyed this episode or found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast. We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you are going through. So if you are considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out to see how we can help. When working with us, you can sell your home in its current condition, there is no need to remove unwanted items, and you control when the house is sold, along with so many other advantages. Visit leavethekey.com or call us at 631-388-7771 to learn more about our senior home buying process.